All right, so what are we gonna do? Well, we're kind of following the same series that we've repeated for our beef, our sheep, and our goats, and today is swine. And just to kind of get you guys going, let's make sure that we keep our mics muted at all times, really out of respect for our presenter and everybody else joining us on the call, so we can respect those people and have a great time and easy listening. If you're on your phone, it's better to hold your phone like this, upright versus to the side, or else it won't be able to show the content on the PowerPoint as well. So just as if any of you guys are joining us in from your phone. And we're going to discuss, this virtual situation that we're in. We're trying to adapt to it the best that we can, and we're going to bring to you some things today for swine training and grooming. We're going to cover a video that we produced up at our North Dakota State Fair, and that's going to help Brian talk a little bit about critiquing some showmen. We're going to show you some showman positions. He's going to talk a little bit about some things that are ideal in his perspective. We're going to talk a little bit about you as an exhibitor and a 4-H'er and a mentor. And then we're going to answer some questions and answers, and we'll go ahead and answer those questions in the chat box. So if you have a question, we have lots of people that are looking at that chat box and making sure that we record your question. So don't be worried if you don't get answered right away. We are writing them down, and we'll make sure we answer them towards the end of the presentation if we can't interject Brian and answer it right away. So Dr. Hoffman, you might see his name in there, so he's not some random person answering your question. Dr. Hoffman will be answering some things there. With that, I don't think I forgot anything. I'll turn it over to Brian.
Well, thank you, Leanne, and welcome everyone. It's good to see. We've got a large participation again this evening. I think we're just over 90 people logged into the program tonight. Like Leanne said, my name is Brian Zemprick. I serve as a county extension agent in Southeast North Dakota, and I have grown up with swine my whole life and exhibited swine all through 4-H, and kids are doing that now, so very strong ties in the with swine showmanship. So some of the things we're going to cover, like Leanne said, we're going to talk a little bit about nutrition tonight, preparing your animal for exhibit, different types of equipment that you're going to need for your show pig project, appearance, or I guess kind of change that slide a little bit, but we're going to talk more about show maintenance or preparation or show management when we get to the show. Then we're going to show that video, talk about some different showmanship positions. We got a bunch of pictures that we're going to we'll talk through a little bit. Talk about you as the showman and what you should be doing. And then, like Leanne said, we'll go through and answer some questions and answers later on as we go through this. So if you do have questions, please type those in the chat box. We've got several people that are on that will be monitoring those, and if any of those individuals feel that the question is very relevant at the time that we're talking about it, they will pipe in right away. Otherwise, we'll take those questions at the end. So we're going to start off with nutrition, and nutrition is really the basis of your swine project after you get your swine project selected. And there are many different feed companies out there. There are many different ways that you can go with your nutrition program. But you can really help your pig along if you pick out a good pig and you use a good nutrition program. You're going to maintain a good project throughout your summer months and showing that pig. If you go out and get a good pig and you skimp on the nutrition, your pig probably is not going to perform as well as you're going to want them to. So we'll do some studying and research on the different types of feed companies that are out there. Like I said, there's several different companies out there. See what feed is available in your area, Not every feed company is going to be available in the area that you live. So see what the different stores or elevators can get in for you, um, and then work from there. And that's going to probably eliminate a lot of different options for you as the availability of what you can purchase. So with your nutrition, in the swine industry, we're really looking at a protein and lysine levels of what that feed is going to deliver to those pigs. And we want to kind of monitor the weight of the pigs and adjust our feeding program based on the weight of our pig. Uh, so probably when you first get those pigs, we're feeding a somewhere between an 18 and a 20% protein diet from a 1.1 to a 1.2 lysine level. And then as they start to grow, we can start adjusting that protein level down a little bit depending on how much muscle and fat they have. If we need more muscle, if we need to trim them up a little bit, we can adjust that or stay at probably a higher protein and lysine level. If we need to add a little bit of cover to them, maybe they've got plenty of muscle on them, we can start decreasing that protein and lysine level a little bit based on how they're performing. So really when you're looking at your ration program, you first want to decide if you want to uh, go with a complete feed or a grind and mix feed that a local elevator may be able to put together for you, or if you've got a grinder mixer wagon at home, maybe you can uh, formulate your own ration right at home, uh, cheapen up your ration just a little bit. If you're feeding 1 or 2 pigs throughout the summer, a complete feed might be more beneficial, easier to get, those types of things. So figure out if you want a complete feed or a grinder mix feed. Uh, Figure out if you're going to hand feed your pigs or do a full feed. Put them on a self feeder where they can eat whenever they want. We like to hand feed our pigs as soon as we get them and get them in the barn. This allows us to adjust their feed just a little bit better and monitor how they're growing. It also gets them used to us a little bit better too. And then when we're doing this, we like to weigh our pigs to make sure that they are on track for our target uh, fare that we want them to be. And if we need to make adjustments, we can do that rather easily if we weigh our pigs on a regular basis. At our place, we try to weigh at the beginning probably every 2 weeks. And as we get closer to the fair, we like to probably weigh at least once a week, if not a little bit more often, just depending on where we're at on some of those pig weights. So uh, using a scale is a real benefit when we're talking about nutrition of your pigs. Make sure you're feeding a balanced ration for your pig and just monitor their condition, and you may need to do some adjustments to your ration. Uh, Changing your feed ration if you're just bumping up or down from protein levels, sticking with the same feed company or doing your own grind and mix. You can switch your pigs just a little bit easier on that, but if you're switching completely different feeds, you're going to want to change that feed over a gradual period of time. This is probably more often when you purchase your pigs and bring them home from a different producer and you're switching them to a different feed. Uh, don't make sudden feed changes right before you go to a fair or at the fair. This is your pigs are more likely to go off feed at those times and get sick on you and go backwards. So make those changes gradual, uh, and then practice good biosecurity. Uh, when you're at the fairs, don't borrow out your uh, feed equipment or your equipment and um, don't borrow from other people. Once in a while, we may forget something at home. Try to avoid the borrowing from other people. And then provide plenty of clean, fresh water for those pigs. Uh, When they've got clean, fresh water, they're more likely to consume more feed and grow better for you when they're at home and at the fair. So we're going to start out with talking about prepping your animal for the fair. And first of all, you want to have a game plan in place. So before you even go out to select an animal, have a game plan in place. What kind of breed of pig do you want? Do you want a purebred? Do you want a crossbred? Are you shooting to show a market animal or a breeding animal? And what is the target show that you're getting ready for? You may have other shows that you're going to attend, but what is the show that you are ultimately gearing this animal for? You need to pick a show to gear towards, and that's going to determine the what size pig you're going to have and the age of that pig. Once we know that, we can go out and select the animal or animals that you want to take for your swine project for the summer months. And when we go to select, we want to find that animal that's correct in conformation with the correct breed characters, especially if we're showing a purebred animal. Once we get that animal selected in home, then we can start working with that animal. We can start getting that animal used to us. We can get them used to the feed and the environment that they're going to be in. And we like to get our pigs out and walk them on a daily basis. Our pigs are in what we call our show pens at home, and they're smaller type pens. They don't have access to big pens. So we like to get them out and exercise them on a daily basis. And this also helps to build up their stamina when they're out in the show ring. And some shows, the pigs can be out in the show ring for half hour to 45 minutes. I believe last year in a showmanship class that my daughter was in, she was out there for almost 45 minutes with her pig. And so we need to make sure that those pigs can withstand the amount of time that they're going to be asked to be out in the show ring. And we like to build up the pig's endurance up to at least a half an hour. And we do this gradually by just spending a little extra time each day to get up to that half hour to where they're not tired by the time we get them back to the pen. Driving your pig. And what I mean here is getting those pigs out and showing them. How do we get those pigs to do what we want in the show ring? And this is practice.
Walk out and see if you can hear
it. We want to be able to.
John, how do I get out of this thing?
We want to be able to get the pig to go where we want without too much fuss. We don't want to use our show whips in excess. So we want to be able to practice all three poses that we want to give the judge when we're out in the show ring. We want to be able to move that pig effortlessly with our show sticks and get them to go where we want. So we want to practice driving those pigs. Have your parents work as a judge out in the front yard where they can help you get your pigs out and practice showing them. Practice getting your pigs' heads up. Pigs are more attractive when they have their heads up and are walking across the show ring, just like this young lady in the picture off to the side. Her pig's head is up and really an attractive profiling pig, level in her top, just gets out and really shows herself off. If that pig walked in there with her head down, wouldn't be quite as attractive on the side profile as she is right now. Again, weigh your pigs periodically. This helps to make sure you're on track to meet those ideal weights of the show that you're wanting to attend. And each pig is also going to look better at a certain weight. So you need to not only know what weight you want to or what your weight limits are at the fair, but have an idea of what the realistic best weight for your pig is based on its conformation, structure, body build, and that will help you determine if you're on track and what adjustments what need to be made. I got sun care down here. Sun care. Pigs get sunburned very easily, especially a white pig. And if you have pigs out in the where they can get outside, maybe they have access to being indoors and outdoors. That's the type of pen they're in. If you can at all lock them in during the day when the sun is out and let them run around at night, that is ideal. If not, you may need to invest in some sunscreen, typically SPF 45 or higher. And just like human sunscreen, that's what we use if we need to put sunscreen on. Take and cover their whole body in sunscreen and let them be out in the sun. If you've got a belted pig where there's any white, again, you want to cover those white areas with some sunscreen. Now on the other side, our darker colored pigs, the blacks and the red pigs, we like them to get a little bit of sun. We like to get them suntan, give them a little bit of darker color to them. So if we can get them out in the sun for a little bit each day and get that darken up their skin, they become more attractive. And when they're out in that show ring, they've got that darker, fresher look to them. So, but again, you need to do this in gradual increments. You cannot just throw your pig outside all day and expect them to be come in without being fried. So do this gradually, and also keep an eye on them. And then when you, after so long, bring them back inside if you have access to putting them inside during the brighter parts of the day. Vaccination and worming. After you pick up your pigs from whoever you buy them from, if you buy them or if you raise them, make sure you know what the vaccination program is, if they need any other vaccinations throughout the summer. Your pigs should be wormed every at least once a month, 6 weeks at the latest. So make sure you have a good worming program in place. This will help keep those pigs growing and on track as well. Continuing on with our preparation, develop a routine. We like to figure out when we want to be feeding at the shows that we're going to go to, and we typically like to feed in the morning about 7:30. When we get to the shows, we like to feed around that 6 o'clock time frame at night. So when we're at home, we try to stick to that same schedule. So when we do get to the shows, the pigs don't get off too much of a routine. We still feed relatively close to the same time frame, and so this keeps them a little more relaxed and knowing that even though they're in a different environment, they're still going to get fed pretty close to the same time, and so they're not quite as stressed as what they are if you completely switch up their schedule. The show whips. There are several different types of show whips available for the swine exhibitors to use, anywhere from a show cane to a what a lot of people will refer to as a horse riding crop, to the type of show stick that this young lady's got in this picture. It's a longer, narrower type of a show stick with a little string on the end to help guide those pigs around. Some people will use a pipe type of driving tool, but anything that you're comfortable with. Some of these show sticks that like the young lady has, some are a little more flexible than the others, some are stiffer. So it just kind of depends on personal preference of what type of show stick and driving utensil you like to use when you're out there moving your pigs around. What we do recommend is the type of show stick that you're going to use in the show. Probably use that same type of instrument at home, so that again, the pigs are used to it. So if you're at home and using a plastic pipe to move your pigs around, and then you switch over to a show stick like the young lady's got in this picture, pigs aren't going to react the same way to those different objects. So try to stick as close to the same type of driving utensils as you can when you get to the show, is what you use to practice at home. And when you're holding your show stick, this young lady's doing a pretty good job here. She's got her show stick grabbed, and then kind of with her index finger stuck out. That kind of helps guide and steady that show stick just a little bit better as she gets out and moves that pig around. Again, some of these show sticks also come in longer lengths, and so find a show stick that adequately helps you. If you're a smaller individual, you may want just a little bit longer show stick to help you reach the areas that you need to reach. If you're a bigger individual, taller individual, you may not need quite as long of a show stick, but still find something that you can handle and move those pigs around with some ease. Loading your pig, we recommend practice loading your pigs at home as often as you can. This takes out a lot of stress if you, when you get to loading before you head to the fair, when you're headed for home from the fair. If those pigs know how to get into a trailer, it does them a whole lot better, and it also alleviates a lot of stress on family members and frustration. So if you've got a trailer that doesn't have a ramp on it, make a cheap little ramp. 3/4 inch plywood works really nice. That usually is got enough stability to it that the pigs will be able to walk up and down it quite easily. Cover that plywood with some artificial turf or indoor or outdoor carpet. Maybe put in a couple tread bars just to give them some traction as they're walking up and down those down that ramp, so that they don't slip and fall and twist a leg or something. So once they figure out how to load, usually they'll run and jump onto that trailer quite easily when they know that that's what they're going to do. So take some stress out of it. Start practicing when you've got time at home, and those pigs will get onto that trailer quite easily after a couple times. So we get now to the really the skin care and hair management of your pig. Brushing your pigs on a daily basis helps to remove that dead scaly skin that your pigs can develop over time. And if you can keep those pigs' skin and hair looking good by brushing them, you've won a pretty big battle in that area. So brush and comb out that hair on a daily basis, a couple, 3-4 times a day is really good. And then start adding some skin conditioner to the pigs, some different lotion. You know, there's different products out there. Everyone's got a personal preference of a different type of skin conditioner that they like to use on their pig skin. Find one that you like to use, and we do a lot. We go to the dollar stores and purchase the cheap lotion, and that seems to do as well as anything out there. So work that conditioner into your pig skin, and then wash and rinse your pigs. Wash or rinse them at least on a daily basis. We like to wash with soap maybe every 3 to 4 days. Sometimes that soap will dry your pig's skin out just a little bit quicker, but we like to rinse them at least once a day, if not multiple times a day, especially if it's hot out. We like to get them rinsed off and back into their pen so they cool down, and then they like to eat a little bit better too. So rinsing and washing them will help keep them cleaner and keep the excess debris off of them. And if they got some white on their legs like this individual, it helps to eliminate some of those stained areas that become a troublesome problem when you get to the fairs and trying to get those urine stains out of those white areas. So if you work on this at home, it's an easier task when you get to the fairs. Keep your pigs pens clean. Picking them out on a daily basis again helps with keeping their skin and hair coats really fresh and youthful in their appearance. And finally, clipping your pigs. First of all, make sure when you clip your pigs that you know what your fair or show rules are according to clipping. There's some shows won't allow you to clip once you get to the show, so you need to do that clipping prior to getting there. Some shows have length requirements, and there shouldn't be a pig that is shaved all the way down to the skin anymore these days. A lot of shows have gone away from that and don't allow that. Just more so if it's a terminal show and they go to, they don't necessarily scold real well, and so the packers have to do more work to get those pigs ready for the meat case. So a lot of shows will go to 3/8 to a ½ inch of hair. Usually you don't clip anything from the hock or the knee down to the ground. You leave the hair on the tails and inside the ears alone. Otherwise you can body clip the rest of the pig. And if you get real good, you can start accentuating some of the more important parts by using different guards on your clippers to accentuate those areas and blending into the other areas.
Brian, this is Kurt. Can
Yes.
I quickly interrupt? I've been monitoring the chat box, and just so those people that have been watching and asking questions, Paige Zimprick, who is Brian's daughter, has been answering some questions. So if you have been, she showed quite a few around the country with Brian. So if you're wondering who that is, I just wanted to clarify that for our participants, who that is. And some of the Dr. Hoffman's on, and also Rick Schmidt from the planning committee are also answering questions. So just to let the participants know who's helping you out in the back of the scenes here.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it. And one more thing on the clipping I wanted to touch base on is this is really a patience plays a key role in this. And this is where our work earlier with the brushing and the exercise and hand feeding really come into play, because that pig gets started to know who you are and trust you. And this is patience. We don't restrain these pigs when we clip them like we do a sheep or a goat or a steer or heifer. They're basically loose in the pen. We don't want to restrain them. So we got to have some patience. And I've told everyone else, I say, because it requires patience, I leave the clipping to my daughter because I don't have the patience to do it anymore. So she's kind of taken over that aspect of things and does a very nice job of it. But have patience. Once the pigs really start to figure out the clipper, the vibration of the clipper, they really start to enjoy it, and they'll lay down and be good with it. So again, just have patience with it. The different types of equipment that we like to use in the show industry for pigs, first and foremost is having a show box, I think is important. You don't need a big fancy one. The one that's pictured here is one that it's an aluminum show box that you can hang on Your show pens are kind of light and compact and easy to move around, but you don't need anything that extravagant. But I do recommend something that can be locked. So if you got valuables, you can lock them up so they don't disappear if you're at a show. Once in a while, some of those things do have a tendency to disappear on us. So if you don't have something that you can lock it up, just make sure you take it home with you at night, and or you take care of it while you're at the show. When you're done using it, probably run it back to your truck and put it away there. But uh, I like a show box. It helps keep things organized and neat. It can be a homemade wood show box. It could be a Rubbermaid plastic tote. Again, I like them if you can lock them. It helps keep things organized. It helps when you're getting ready to go to a show, you can put all of your show equipment in one thing and load it right into the pickup and know you have everything. Electric clippers right down below it. It's a small handheld clipper. You can many different varieties of them out there. We like to have the cordless ones when we're clipping pigs. Just a personal preference because those pigs are not restrained. They're walking around, so once in a while you get tangled up in the cords if you've got a corded clipper, or the pigs like to chew on those cords. So that's why we tend to use the cordless clippers a little bit more than the corded clippers, but cordless clippers also cost a little bit more money. So whatever you're looking at, it's kind of an investment into the project that should last you from the day you start the project till the day you end the project. So it's a good investment for your project if you're going to get into that. Over at the far end, or on the right side of the blue brush there, are the clipper guards. You can buy kits of them with the different size guards. You can buy them individually, but you're going to want a guard so that when you go to clip your pigs, you get them clipped at the right hair length. The show whip, again, right here in the center, between the clipper and the blue brush. This is just one example of the many I talked about. It's a small, slender fiberglass stick that's got a braided covering on it with a little string on the end to help move your pigs around. Brushes, I've got 3 different brushes on here. The first one right underneath the clipper is a type of brush that we like to use when we're washing pigs. It helps to pull that drier, scaly skin off. It helps get that soil off if we have some tough areas. It just works really nice in the wash racks. The blue brush is a really nice brush to have in your back pocket. If you're an individual that likes to put a brush in your back pocket. It's also a type of brush that when you're clipping does a nice job of brushing off the hair that's been clipped so you know where you're at. And then the one down in the bottom right corner, the pink colored brush, is a nice brush that we like to use when we are prepping to get into the show ring. It's a softer bristle brush that just works the water and stuff into the hair just a little bit better, gets the wood chips and stuff off real easy going into the show ring. And some individuals like to have a bigger brush in their hand versus the pocket brush out in the show ring, so it becomes a personal preference there. Mild soap, again, you can buy a livestock soap. There's many different kinds on the market, or you can use a product such as your dish soaps. Dawn dish soap is a very mild soap that works really well when you're washing pigs. So find a mild soap that works for you. Pails for water, depending on what you're doing at the show, you should have a pail for water to water your pigs throughout the time that they're at the show. Have plenty of feed with you. Plan for the amount of time that they're that you're at the show, plus a little bit of extra feed, so you've got plenty of feed with you when you're at the show. Bring a hose with you. Don't rely that someone else will have a hose there or that the fair is providing a hose. Grab a short 10, 15-foot hose and pack in your show box and bring with you. I guess I got show box listed twice here. Shows how important that is, or that I think it is anyway. A sort board, that's the purple item here in the bottom center of the screen. It helps moving your pigs around when you get to the fairs, helps get them into pens, get them to the wash rack, get them to the show ring. It helps if you're in the show ring or and there's fights going on, your boardman can grab those boards and help break up the pig fights in the show ring. So nice tool to have with you. A spray bottle, I've got an example up at the top center of the screen, that orange spray bottle there. This is a pump style spray bottle. You can get the trigger spray bottles. They all work just fine, but these work nice going into the show ring, wet those pigs down prior to entering the show ring, and to help keep them a little bit cooler. And if you've done the work at home, that spray or that water will be enough to really make them shine and glisten out in the show ring. So spray them down and they'll be good to go once you hit the show ring. And then fans, we like to have fans with, put up fans during the show, especially your summer shows when it can be hot out. Get air moving, get have a place for the pigs to lay where it's cool. And you can use a box fan. There's other types of fans available, but just something to help get the air moving and give the pigs a place to lay down that's a little bit cooler for them. The one thing up here at the top right corner of the screen is a pen divider. So if you've got multiple pigs that are going to a show that maybe don't get penned together or are on different feeds, but they have to be in the same pen when you get to the show, you can put up a pen divider. It doesn't need to be as fancy as what the one in the example is. It can just be a gate that you put across the pen. But be prepared if you have to put pigs together in a pen that haven't been put to, or penned together or fed together. If they haven't been together and need to be together, they will fight when you're at the show, so you do want to have a way to separate them. So our show management. When we get to the show, or prior to getting to the show, we want to know what the show rules are. So look at the show, your rule books or the rules online, whatever it might be. Know what your arrival time is. Know what your release time is. Know when you have to be checked in by. And what paperwork do you need to have? If you've got a registered animal, what do you need to have your registration papers with? Do you actually have to have the physical document with you, or can you have photocopies, or can you bring it up online and show the show management? There's different things there that you need to be aware of when that comes in. Know what time you have to be weighed in for, and what shows you need to be registered for. So know your show rules. Know the rules for watering. Do you have a show that requires that you have to provide water to the pigs 24 hours a day, or can you provide water intermittently throughout the day? We don't like to put waters in our pens. We like to run them to the wash rack, or give them water by bucket throughout the day. If we found that if they get a nipple water, we get maybe one of those PVC pipes and fill with water. Sometimes they like to leak or get water all over the place and flood their pen, and so we like to control that. And but but other people like to use those and fill those up and make sure that their pigs have water throughout the day. Some fairs have rules that say that they have to have water uh, with or in their pens throughout the day. So make sure you know what those rules are. Bedding, again, know what is allowed at the fair. Some fairs will only allow you to put wood chips in. Some fairs don't care. Just make sure you know what you can and can't put in. Know your feeding regulations. What's allowed, what's not allowed. Again, know what you, if you can clip at the fair or not. And there's a lot of fairs that will not allow you to use a oil-based product for your skincare going into the show ring. You can use it prior, the night before going into the show ring. You can use it, but you cannot use it going into the show ring. So again, water is the best option here going into the show ring. It helps keep them cool. The oil-based products, especially during the summer, just holds in the heat and gets those pigs hotter quicker. For weigh-ins, what time are the weigh-ins? Is your weigh-ins done all at the same time? Or do you as an exhibitor have to weigh your pig and declare your own weight for the show? And if you're declaring your weight, know what those rules are. Know what the, like us at State Fair here in North Dakota, we have one weigh-in time that is a declared your weight. All weights have to be turned in by a certain time, and that's weight serves for 4 different shows during the time that they're there. So you kind of have to project what those pigs are going to weigh over the next couple days, because they are still eating, they are still growing, and there are some penalties if you get too far out of weight from the weight that you declared. So know those rules, how your weigh-in procedures are done. Again, keep your pigs' pens clean. It's nothing worse than walking into a barn and at the fair and the pens are dirty and gross and disgusting. Fly problems occur real quickly, and that turns off the general public. And we're here to promote the livestock industry, and we want to give a real good impression of the projects that we're doing. So keep those pens clean, pick out the manure throughout the day, and you may have, if you're there for a period of time, you may have to clean those pens out every couple days completely and rebed. Again, keep a routine as close as possible as what you did at home. Put up some fans so you get that air moving. Check on your pigs several times throughout the day. Don't just feed your pigs and water your pigs in the morning and then walk away until the evening when you have to do chores again. Fairs are a fun time. We like to go out and enjoy the midway or see what else is going on at the fair, but your number one priority is your livestock when you're at the fair, so make sure you're checking on them throughout the day, several times throughout the day. And if you're at a fair for a period of time, again, these pens aren't very big for our livestock. That's not meant for them to be a permanent home for them. Get them out and exercise them according to what your show rules are. Some shows will allow you to take pigs out in the show ring in the evening and let them exercise and run a little bit. So some will let you walk your pigs up and down the alleyways during the day. Find out what you can and can't do. Let your pigs get some exercise, especially if they're at a show for a longer period of time than just a day or so. So I'm going to let Leanne share her video.
All right, man, that's such good information already, Brian. Well, I'm getting this up. If Travis and Kurt, I think Kurt stepped away, if Travis or Rick, if you want to share some of the wonderful questions that we've been getting, why don't you guys do that at this time?
Well, this is Dean. I'll jump in there real quick, Brian. A couple of questions that came on real early. And Travis answered a couple of those with respect to target weights. But do you want to make any comments on that, both the target weight as well as why fairs have a target weight or weight limits?
I can probably answer that question, Dean. The industry really is looking for consistency in the pigs, and they basically have developed a market to where they want to sell a certain size of a teardrop ham. And when they box them up, the customers are wanting that teardrop size ham to be the same every time they get it. And so they basically figured out that the ideal size of ham that they want right now, at least, comes from a pig weighing about 260 pounds. And so if we get a 320-pound pig, that teardrop size ham doesn't really fit what their market is. And so they've developed a way to say, we want consistency, and this is the size of pig that we think meets the demand of our customers.
Great. Yeah, that was good information that Travis included. I want to make sure everybody had a chance to get that. Thank you.
I know we had a couple more questions. Why don't we answer another one, like maybe the marshmallow one?
Absolutely. Our question, Mr. Zimprick, comes from, how do I get the head up? And again, there's been some suggestions in marshmallows. What can we do in terms of training to keep that head up on a pig?
Well, let me guess. My daughter answered with marshmallows. If my daughter had stock in marshmallows, we would be very rich right now. She loves marshmallows. Or using marshmallows for a training tool. There are many different options out there, or different strategies out there to get your pig's head up. A lot of it is really just hard work and practice and working with them. Like I said, marshmallows, putting a marshmallow at the end of your show stick and walking around with that in front of their face, and that will help get their heads up a little bit. But once in a while, then they start relying that they're going to get a marshmallow every time they're out there, and that could cause a problem in the show ring because they're always looking for a marshmallow. That's kind of the problem with treats all the way around, is if you get them too used to treats, then they're always looking for those, and then makes it a little more challenging out in the show ring. I see a couple people have used apple slices, a couple people have used Oreo cookies. There's a company that has what they call a head trainer. It's a pipe type instrument that has a curve down at the bottom of their show stick, or down at the bottom of their pipe, that you can use to get underneath that head and work at tapping up that head. And the more you work with that, they just get used to walking around like that, keeping their heads up. Same instance, using a show stick and just practice tapping underneath that jowl and chin area, and they keep that head up and moving as they, and after practice, they start to get used to doing that and moving throughout the ring. So really it comes down to a lot of practice and patience and working with those pigs, and it's not an easy thing to do all the time. They're not always real willing to do that, but it just takes some time and practice. And yeah, there's some tricks out there, and use those sparingly, and you should have some results if you work at it religiously.
Thank you so much for answering those questions. I have one more in relation to that Emily just asked, and I am not aware. She was wondering if there's any sweets that your pig cannot have, like perhaps poisonous things or anything like that.
Yeah, not off the top of my head. I guess we try to, like I said, my daughter pretty much sticks with marshmallows, or she tries to make her own homemade type pig treats once in a while. And, you know, a little bit here and there is good. We just don't want to overdo it and get too much of it all the time. Just, but I really can't think of anything that would be harmful to them right off the top of my head.
Excellent.
Maybe to answer that question a little bit more, Brian, is that remember the pig is a monogastric animal like a human. We probably can get sick if we have too much of a good thing too. So, but a lot of what pigs like are probably things that we like as kids, and just use them in moderation. But they do like their treats.
Thanks for adding
Thank
that,
you, Rick.
All right, well, we're going to kick off this showmanship video, and I'm going to stop it at different time points that Brian has given me so he can critique some things. So again, keep those questions coming in the chat box because we will definitely be answering more questions here shortly.
North Dakota 4-H Swine Showmanship educational video. This video is designed to assist youth in learning the proper practices to become more competitive when showing their pigs. This video is a visual supplement to the North Dakota 4-H Livestock Showmanship Guide, publication number GB092. Showing pigs is pretty universal wherever you.
Okay, our first stop here, and like Leanne said, we're going to stop a few times here throughout this video just to emphasize a few things that are occurring in the show ring that had just passed or will be occurring. One of the things I want you to note is the staging area that we have here at the North Dakota State Fair. Some of your larger shows are going to this type of a staging area where we can separate each pig that's in the class into a holding pen prior to them coming into the show arena. This allows the pigs to come in a calmer manner. It allows the exhibitors to be able to exhibit their pig just a little bit better, and it allows for less fights to occur if we had one big staging area in the back, which we had prior to this year, where this whole back area where these pens are was one big area that the class going into the show ring would stage, and we would have to have people back there breaking up fights just because it was a smaller, cramped area. So if you have a fair that's got a staging area like this, excellent opportunity to really get out and show your pig right away when you get out. But when you're coming into the arena, you want to, once you hit that arena, you want to be confident and poised. And this is the opportunity where you really get to show that pig. You get about 2 or 3 seconds for the judge to really evaluate your pig. This is your first impression to the judge of what your pig is, and so you need to make it count. The young lady that's right in front of us in the green shirt and the blue-headed pig here in front of us, if you notice when she came out of the show ring, and I'm also going to preface this whole video, I know all these kids that are coming out in the show ring. They all do an excellent job, and we're just picking out things here, whether they did something right or we need to change something. But this young lady does a really nice job when she enters the ring. She's very intense when she comes into the show ring. She is looking at the judge. She drives that pig directly to the judge so he gets a good side or a front view of that pig, and then she brings that pig off to the side so she is allowing that judge to get a good side view of that pig. Probably things that we need to work on there. If you saw when she was coming out, she was probably a little quick with her whip, hitting her pig on both sides of the face, a little too fast. The pig didn't know which way to go, and she was just trying to get that pig to walk straight. Just need to calm down a little bit, and then she was tripping over the back of her pig just a little bit. So, but again, excellent showman when she comes out of that pen and giving some good views. The one view that she needs to still give yet is a rear view of that pig. And I think she does that as the video goes here. If you remember the boy that came in just prior to her with the black pig, he walked straight across that show ring, didn't really give too much of an exam, or didn't really exhibit that pig. That pig just kind of walked through that show ring. The judge looked at it and then motioned for the next individual to come in. Really didn't show off his pig as well as he could have. Can continue, Leon.
Show. So it is valid in all county and major shows. Like showmanship in other species, your first impressions are very powerful, so begin strong. Give the judge the...
Okay, so along with coming into the show ring, you'll see right here we've got this young man with the white pig and the young man with the black pig. They've been in the show ring. The judge saw them come in, and now we've got a young lady that's entering the show ring. These two gentlemen should really be off to the side, allowing this individual to get into the show ring and give her the opportunity to show the judge what her pig is. It's just common courtesy. So those two gentlemen should really be more off to the side of that judge, still showing their pigs, but more so just letting the judge evaluate the rest of those pigs that got to come into the show ring. And once all the pigs are in, then the judge will face the entire group, and that's when you can really start showing to the judge again. You can continue, Leon.
Assurance that you're in the show ring to win. Be confident in your mannerisms while remaining calm and relaxed. Showmanship starts as soon as the exhibitor and the pig enter the ring. The judge is looking at the pig to determine if the animal is under the control of the exhibitor. It is best if...
Okay. First of all, the young man with the gray shirt, if you watched him, he just kind of follows his pig around. He needs to get a little more aggressive, showing that pig, getting that pig in a position better for the judge to see what that individual is doing. Right away, when we started back up on this segment, the young lady over with the white pig in the class, if you noticed her right away, she took and used her knee to push her pig and get her pig moving. Probably not the best thing to do. We just, if we need to get that pig moving, maybe just need to use a whip just a little bit more to get that pig moving, but avoid really using excessive force, especially with the knee. If we need to, we can get down with our hand and put in front of their face and get them to move away just a little bit, but avoid using your knees to push your pigs around. Okay, Leon.
The pig moves toward the judge in a slow manner, with the pig's head held up high, top lines level, and it's responding to the commands of the exhibitor. This will give the judge a good front view of the animal.
Okay, if you notice, just before we stopped, we had a kind of a pileup of 3 or 4 pigs there, and we want to avoid this. We want to be able to anticipate where these roadblocks are going to be, where these pileups are going to be, and if you're going to be, the more time you spend in the show ring, the better you get at anticipating those and driving away from those. And sometimes it may mean you need to take a longer route around just to avoid those pileups. But the young man with the black belted pig in front of the white barrel here that the young lady's got, an individual that he kind of got stuck in that pack right away, but he was able to find that opening and scoot through that opening rather quickly, and he was back out. And once we progress this video some more, he's out in the open and really driving that pig nicely to get out where the judge can see and evaluate that pig really easily. Okay, Leanne.
Once the judge has seen that view, work the pig to the side so he or she can view the next pig coming into the ring. Once in the ring, move the pig about the ring back and forth in a controlled.
So as you saw when we progressed that video, that young man with that black belted barrow had a nice wide open spot, came around and turned right in front of the judge about 10-15 feet. Really nice spacing for him, and gave a really nice view of that pig. And then he took and shot up along the fence rail there where he was able to give that judge a nice rear shot of that pig. And now when we get going again, he's going to bring um, that pig back across again where the judge can see him. The young lady with the white barrow again right in front of us, she needs to anticipate a little more where this pig calico barrow is coming right in front of her. As we progress this video, this white pig starts nudging at that calico barrow when he walks by. The young lady should have turned her pig away from that barrow to eliminate that her white pig from nudging into that barrow. Potentially, that's a indicator. That's a time when a fight could occur. We want to be able to anticipate that and keep those pigs moving and away from one another. Okay, Leanne.
Fashion. This should be done 10 to 15 feet from the judge. A well-controlled pig should stay at least 5 feet from the outer edge of the arena at all times. Once all the animals are in the ring, do your best to give the judge all of the views of your pig. Walk the pig toward the judge to give the judge a front view of your animal. Once you're
Okay. Young man that was over on the left side of your screen had a white Your Guilt, I believe it is, really out in the open. Everyone else was kind of piled up here in the center of the ring. He was off on the left side of the screen there, nice in the open. And then he had a nice open spot to go across in front of the judge to give that side view, maybe a little closer than what we usually like to drive in front of the judge, but that was his only option at that time, and it was a good option. Everyone else had the middle plugged up, so he went in front of them, gave a good view of his pig to the judge, and was able to keep that pig moving real free and easy as he moved through the ring. As we progress the video, the young man coming back up with the black belted pig coming here. Watch as he's driving. He's probably a little excessive with his whip when he's trying to get that pig moving. His pig's probably not moving quite as the way he wants, so he's getting a little more aggressive with that whip. So I would like to see him maybe slow that whip down a little bit, and maybe not be quite as aggressive with that whip, and see if there's another option to keep that or get that pig moving than the amount of whip action he's got going there. Okay, Leon?
8 to 10 feet from the judge, turn the pig and have it walk away until you're about 12 to 15 feet from the judge. This gives the judge a rear view.
Okay, we're going to talk the calico pig right in front of us. Young man does a nice job driving this pig, giving a nice side profile as he moves that pig in front of that judge and across, and maybe not quite as aggressive as a couple of the others in this class, but he does a nice job of showing off that pig and displaying that pig to the judge. The individual with the black belted pig right behind him does again a nice job. He's right there, right in the center of the ring, has the judge's attention. Couldn't be in any better position at that point in time because he's right there where the judge can see him. The only problem that I see with him is is that when he starts coming across, he gets too fast going across. He should slow that pig down just a tick more to really let that judge evaluate how that pig is moving and evaluate that the shape of that pig as he's moving across the ring in front of him. But again, does a nice job there. And the other thing is, notice the spacing. Both of those individuals right up in front are probably about the right distance away from that judge. The judge can evaluate those two individuals quite nicely. They're a good space apart, so they're not interfering with each other. So nice spacing there in those two. Okay, Leon.
Of your animal. At this time, turn your pig and walk so the judge can see a good profile view of your animal. Top exhibitors will give the judge all three views, the front, rear, and side views. This is all done while keeping the pig on the move. Judges will look to see who can move their pig about the ring and present their animal to the best of its ability. Always keep the pig between you and the judge. Stay out of the crowd. When pigs get crowded, the judge does not get a good view of any of the animals. In this event, be courteous to your pig and the other exhibitors as well as the judge. Do not overuse the whip or the bat. Use it as a guide. The whip should be used to get the pig to move by tapping it in areas of the pig that are not of high value cuts of meat on the animal. It can be used on the jowls, the front shoulder, or the legs.
Okay, the one that I want you to pay attention to here was the young man with that white York gilt out in front. If you noticed him throughout that whole stretch there, he really did a nice job of keeping his pig out in the open areas, moving his pig in the different areas, letting the judge see his pig. He was in the open areas when everyone else was sometimes crowded up and bunched up. So he knew where to get that pig and give his pig the best views so the judge could see him. The one thing that when he wanted to walk across in front, he just got done doing it. He probably got a little too carried away with swinging his arm or his free hand with the brush in his hand too much, tapping the pig on the side. Kind of gets a little distracting as he moves across that ring with that pig. But again, he does a really nice job, really calm and collective with that pig, and you can see that those two have worked together and really do a nice job moving throughout that ring. Okay, Leanne.
However, do not use it on the loin, side, or ham of the pig. Pig exhibitors should use a small brush. The brush should be in your pocket or in the belt of the exhibitor when not in use. The brush is used to keep the pig clean in times of need. At this time, remove the brush, clean the pig, and put it back into your pocket or under your belt. Keep the brush put away so if in the event that you need your free hand, that it's available. Never get between pigs that are fighting. Management provides board people to do so. If your pig gets excited and runs around the ring, be calm and gain control as soon as possible, but never run after your pig.
Okay, we're going to focus here. We got another instance where they're coming into the show ring from the staging area, presenting their pigs. Watch how the young lady that's coming in with the black belted gilt comes into the ring. Watch how she gives the views. Probably not quite as intense as what the first girl in the video when we started off with this video. Probably not quite as intense as what she is. Both of these two individuals do a nice job. They're both different in how they present their pigs. This individual is probably a little bit calmer, more relaxed individual. And as she's moving her pig around, you can see that she comes out of that holding pen, gives the judge a nice side profile, and as we progress the video, we'll give him a nice rear profile. And then as she continues along the fence rails, she'll get off to the side and out of the way of the other exhibitors coming into the show ring. The one thing that she probably failed to do when she came into the show ring was to give the judge a really good front view of this pig. But otherwise, just like our first individual, two individuals that know how to enter a show ring and give the correct views to the judge that the judge wants to see. Okay, Leanne?
Be courteous to other exhibitors. This is accomplished by controlling your pig. Do not overcrowd other pigs. If your pig gets in a crowd, move around the back of the exhibitor and do not take away viewpoints from that exhibitor who has their pig in control. Do this in a calm and relaxed manner.
Okay, if, like I said, watch her as she came across along the show rail. She got her pig up in the area at the front of the screen here, where away from that staging area. And as the judge is working the rest of these pigs coming in, you will watch her as she stays off to the side here, but yet in the corner of the judge's eye to where he could still see that she's working that pig. Probably not working that pig quite as hard as what she will do when that judge gets all the pigs in and they really start to show. But then she can crank up the intensity a little bit, but watch as she stays off to the side there and allows the other exhibitors to enter the show ring. Okay, Leanne?
Get in control of your pig as soon as possible. Your job is to present your pig to the best of its ability. Proper clipping, washing, conditioning of the hair is all part of showmanship. However, the work should be done by the exhibitor, and professional preparation should be given no preferential advantage. Be courteous to the judge. Don't get too close to the judge or run into them. Give adequate eye contact to acknowledge that you are aware of where the judge is at all times. However, do not stare at the judge. Keep one eye on your animal and one eye on the judge. Questions are fair game in any showmanship contest. When a judge comes to ask questions, let your pig go on its own. Answer the questions when the judge finishes the conversation, then you go back to your pig and give the judge the best view of your animal from that point on again. Questions can be anything from the unified scorecard. Examples may be, if you were going to make your pig more competitive, what would you change? What are you feeding your pig? Knowledge of the ear notching system. What have you learned from your pig project this year? Maybe some body parts. How accurately and confidently you answer the questions can add points to your showmanship score. The dress code is also
Okay, one thing when we're wanting to point out here is we had one pig yet to come into the show ring. The individual, when the judge motioned for him, he was still looking back at whoever was helping him at the back of that staging pen, handing him water. The individual needs to be ready to enter that show ring as soon as the judge is ready for him to come into the show ring. So it took a little bit extra time to get into the show ring. In the meantime, while this was happening, we had all these pigs coming into the front. So this individual didn't get a real good show for his pig. He kind of got blocked there coming out. So not only did he make it hard on himself because he wasn't quite ready, but everyone else kind of came in and blocked him in and didn't quite get that show in. So again, the exhibitors out in the show ring need to have some courtesy, allow everyone to get in before they come back in and really start showing to the judge. Okay, Leon.
Important. Swine exhibitors should have a solid colored shirt, dark jeans, and hard-soled shoes.
Okay, the only thing here that I wanted to point out was look how everyone is spaced here. You've got not really any too big pileups, no big clusters of any pigs in any particular areas. We've got pigs that are easily seen by the judge. Some are off to the side, getting ready to turn back and head in front of the judge. We got a couple right in front of the judge. We've got a couple up in the corner that really need to get back into the show here and get their pigs turned around. And but otherwise, the spacing right here in this frame really shows what the judge would like to see so that he can evaluate the pigs quite easily. Okay, Leon.
Make sure that the clothes are clean. Being well groomed yourself is important. No hat or hat ring, uncombed hair, and ladies should manage their hair appropriately so it does not go into their face. Swine showmanship is about character building. Your first job is to make your pig look good, but most importantly, that you enjoy the experience of your swine project. Good luck and have fun.
All right. Thank you so much for breaking that down for us, Brian, and really giving us the details of Showman. I think he's got a couple more slides of pictures to show you guys really position and a lot of great things. And so then we can answer some more questions.
Okay, sorry about that. We kind of got screwed up there. Some pictures, and keep in mind, again, I know all these exhibitors, they do a nice job of exhibiting their pigs. Sometimes the camera is unfriendly in how they were captured, but it makes for great opportunity to talk about some different things here. We're going to start off on the far left, young individual with the green shirt on, black pig. This is the same individual that led off the showmanship video discussion. Look at the intensity, very intense. Knows where that judge is. She does a good job of knowing where her pig is, where the judge is, and showing off that pig. The one thing that I would like her to do just a little different in this picture is she's probably a little too far behind that pig, and so she's really having to reach to control that pig. If she could take another step or step and a half up, get it right on top of the hip of that pig, she's going to have better control of that pig and not have to reach quite as much. Young lady here right next to her with the belted black pig individual. Again, does a nice job. She's probably right where she needs to be as far as the back of the hip of the pig, but I would like to see her actually come up more towards the shoulder because she's trying to change or turn that pig away from her. So if she actually came up to the shoulder of that pig, she'd be able to turn that pig a little bit easier and not have to reach quite as far, and be able to keep moving that pig a little bit easier than what she's demonstrating in that picture. Young man with the red Duroc gilt here in front of, right in the center of the screen. really does a nice job. The pig is very attractive. Looks like he's getting out and moving. Head is up high. The one thing that this picture captures is maybe that head is cranked just a little too high, where he wants to sway in his top line just a little much. If we drop that head down just a tick, we'd probably straighten out that top, and that pig would really look attractive from the side profile if we could do that. Whoops. The young man up in the far right corner with the, I believe it's a white gilt here, individual that I don't know what is actually happening here in the picture. If the judge is talking, if the judge asks the exhibitors to stop and listen, and if that's the case, he's doing exactly what he's supposed to. But if that's also the case, I'd probably be squatted down next to your pig and keeping him calm and in one place, maybe scratching under the jowl area or scratching the belly just to keep him calm. If the judge is just talking and they're you really want to keep that pig moving and listen to the judge's reasons while you're moving and showing that pig yet. Because sometimes even if the judge has started talking, doesn't necessarily mean that he has made up his mind yet. So you're still fighting for a higher position possibly in that class if that judge hasn't necessarily made up his mind. And if you just stop and stand there while he's talking, you probably lost that opportunity to advance a higher placing. Down at the bottom in the longer screen here, you can see it's kind of a spacing issue. We got a jumbled up pile right in front of the judge, about 3-4 pigs right there in front of the judge. Whereas then we get the pigs off to the left of the screen, maybe the right of the screen, where they're more out in the open. Yeah, they're maybe further back in the than what we would say is ideal when we're exhibiting the pigs to the judge of that 10 to 12 feet range, but they're out in the open. The judge can see them better there than if they were closer in that jumbled up mess in the middle of the ring. So those individuals did a nice job staying out of that mess and keeping their pigs moving. The young man with the York gilt, we saw him in the video, does a nice job. Has probably got that head up high enough, a level design type of pig. Does a nice job moving that pig throughout. The one thing here, again, he's probably too far back on that pig, but this individual is a taller individual. The pig is probably a smaller pig, so it gets hard to get that distance correct and be able to stand up more on his that pig's hip. Because he's that much taller and he's got a little bit longer reach, so he can do that. And if he got too close, it's going to throw off that how he controls that pig just a little bit. This set of slides are pictures. Again, start up in the left-hand corner. Here we've probably got individual with the yellow t-shirt on, hugging up against the fence rail. We really want to get those pigs away from that fence and driving away from the fence, keep them out in the middle of the arena as much as possible. The white pig right behind the judge there, we don't see an exhibitor anywhere close to that pig, and really that pig is close to that judge, possibly ready to take that judge out at the knee. So we want to make sure as an exhibitor, we have good control of that pig and keep that pig away from the judge so they're not running over the judge. The two young ladies in the center of the slide here with the two black pigs, young lady off to the right does a nice job. She was the same individual that we talked about in the video with the white barrel. Here she's doing a really nice job of moving that pig, coming towards the judge more than likely. Head is up high and level design. On the contrast, her sister over to the left of the screen, coming across the arena, probably doesn't have the head jacked up on that pig quite as much. Therefore, kind of throws the balance off on that pig. doesn't look quite as attractive, but again, they do a nice job of exhibiting. The picture up here in the right-hand corner of the screen, we got 3 individuals here. The young lady with the white pig up at the top of the screen, getting that pig ready or moving, getting that pig ready to go across the ring and in front of the judge. Maybe not quite as aggressive as the next young lady with the red pig, where she's a little more intense in driving that pig to the judge. Young man here with the blue butted pig, again, more relaxed type of a showman, keeps that pig moving, just probably needs to get a little more intense in driving that pig to where that judge needs to get that pig in a better position for the judge to see. Young lady down here in the left-hand corner, she's in one of the holding pens. Her pig came out, got penned into one of the holding pens. So she's got that pig up to the fence, so the judge can still see that pig even though she's in the holding pen. She's ready to go back into the show ring at any moment when the judge calls her back in. If the judge comes over and wants to look at the pig is right there on display. And she's crouched down, calm with that pig, keeping that pig content, does a nice job in the holding pen there. Young lady with the blue gilt right here in the bottom center. Again, an individual who I like to watch out in the show ring, has got some intensity when she's out there. She's still young, still learning. She gets a little quick in her movements out there. Again, she gets behind the pig once in a while, puts her hand on the pig, especially on the top of that pig. We need to eliminate that for that individual. Young man over in the far right corner of the screen with the white pig individual, we just need to get him away from the fence and back out in the show ring so that the judge can get a better view of him. The next set of pictures here, young lady with the white Chester appearing gilt here. Nice job. Level head is up at the right height. Level design, keeping that pig moving. She's really right at the back of the hip where she needs to be. Maybe need a couple inches closer, maybe reaching just a little bit too much yet, but she can still reach the front of that pig without too much problem, but she does a nice job of how that pig is displayed in that picture. Young man, or the duo up in the top center of the screen, young man with the green shirt and goggle-eyed pig here. These pigs are jammed up against the fence. We need to work to get them off the fence. Young man probably needs to work his way up in front of the pig and maybe use a free hand to get down in front of the pig's face and help move that pig away from the fence. While the young lady with the black belted gilt behind him needs to kind of work her tapping on the forehead of the pig to try get that pig to back up a little bit and get back out into the show there. The 2 individuals down at the center bottom with the spot gilts. Again, they're out there driving. The young man's probably a little more intense out there. Got that pig's head up, a level design. These 2 individuals, again, have their hands on the back of their pig. We need to eliminate that. Young lady probably needs to work on getting that head carriage up on the pig just a little bit as she moves that pig throughout the ring. Young lady with the white York appearing gilt on the far right. Again, she's standing right behind that pig, trying to get that pig to move. That pig may be balking a little bit, doesn't want to move forward. So she may be standing behind to just block her and persuade her to move forward. Not necessarily ideal, but sometimes we need to do that. Again, get that hand off their back, and that might help ease some of that too. So we get to you as a showman. so we can talk about dress code, and Rick in the video talked about the dress code. And keep in mind, we've got several states on here, so pay attention to what your state 4-H dress code is, or what your show dress codes are. For 4-H in North Dakota at our state events, you need to wear a solid colored shirt that's white, green, gray, or yellow with the 4-H emblem fixed to the front of the shirt. And then dark jeans, some type of boot or protective shoe. Cap should not be worn, and then be neat and clean when you enter the show ring. Like I said, 4-H rules are the white, green, gray, or yellow shirt with 4-H emblem. But if you go to an open junior show, or some states don't necessarily require a 4-H dress code, you should still dress professional, neat and clean. The two young ladies up in the left corner both have long sleeve button down shirts. If we're showing in a junior open show, sometimes we like to use a brighter color to help stick out a little bit more in the show ring. So the young lady with the belted gilt in this class is nice, more of a bluer type of a button-down shirt, where the other one's got more of a brighter shirt that really stands out. And they kind of complement the types of pigs that they're driving too. The young lady with the brighter shirt's got kind of a wilder pattern pig too, so kind of complements the pig that they're driving. Young ladies with the white barrow up at the top and a nice green t-shirt with the 4-H emblem on. Young man down at the bottom left has got a long sleeve button down white shirt with the 4-H emblem on. And the young man in the far right corner, again, polo shirt with a white polo shirt with the 4-H emblem, all acceptable for North Dakota 4-H dress code. Other things that you as an exhibitor should know, or have know your project, know the age of your pig, know the breed of your pig. What are you feeding your pig? Don't just tell me you're feeding such and such a ration, because I don't know what's in that ration. Look at the feed tag, look at the ingredients, know what you're feeding them and how much you're feeding them, what they're feeding what they're eating each day, know kind of what they're gaining each day. Have a basic understanding of what the current market prices are for the swine industry. When you get out in the show ring, avoid the bumping and crowding and getting in people's way. Have some common courtesy when you're out in the show ring. And when I'm judging showmanship, I always say, you and your pig are a team out there. If one of you is not participating as a team member, you're probably not going to have a real good day out in the show ring. And pigs have mood swings just like humans do. Sometimes they have bad days. Don't just get upset because that day just wasn't your day. Chalk it up as a day of experience. Don't lose your temper over it. Brush it off. And when the show is done, go congratulate the winners. Thank the judge for coming to judge the show, and move on. The next day will be another show, another opportunity to get out there and a different judge's opinion. So with that, we are going to open this up for questions. We got three pictures up here that I really like. Young man, after a long day of showing, sitting down, having a root beer with his pig. We got two individuals up at the top after a long day of showing. That was your champion, reserve champion at the Ransom County Fair this last year, and they both excited and congratulated each other. Young lady graduated out of 4-H here a couple of years ago. Always did a nice job of exhibiting pigs. So, but with that, we're going to open up for questions.
Thank you so much, Brian. You did such a fantastic job walking us through that, and I'm so excited to hear some of the questions that we've been recording.
Yeah, thanks,
Hey.
Brian. This is Dean. You did a great job describing how the pig should be moved and displayed for the judge. So I have 3 questions here that I think are kind of related, and so I'm going to give you all 3 of them and let you take it from that part here. One says, how do you slow your pig down in the show ring? And then the next question I went with is, do you ever need to make the pig stop? And the third question that kind of went with that was, if your pig is stopped, is there a way that you can change the way the pig stands?
Okay. Slowing your pig down, all of these are going to be things that you can practice on at home and get real proficient in when you're working with them at home. Slowing your pig down, you can, if you get to the show and your pig gets into the show ring and takes off running, and we get to the shows once in a while, and no matter how hard we work with them at home, they hit those fresh wood chips in the show ring and they go darting across that ring. Don't go running after them. Put a smile on your face, have some fun with it, but then gather yourself, gather your pig. More than likely they slid like they were going home in a baseball game. Get your brush out, brush off the wood chips, get yourself back in the game, and you're going to be just fine. Like the young man in the video that was coming across in front of the judge that maybe was going a little bit faster than what we'd like. You can tap on their forehead, slow them down just a little bit. And if you've worked with them at home, they're going to understand that cue. And another thing that you can do to slow them down is, if you're walking in a straight line, take and turn them. And that's going to slow them down and get them regrouped and hopefully back into a more of a pace that you're wanting them to travel at. So tapping them on their forehead, slow them down, or turn them around, and they should start to slow down for you. To get them to stop, you're going to want to get in front of them, kneel down or squat down in front of them, and kind of put your hands out to the side and get their kind of cover up their eyes a little bit. They're going to stop. Maybe hold your show stick in front of them across their, and some of them will start chewing on your show stick, and that's just fine because it's got them to stop and stand there. And once you've got them to stop and stand there, you can always kind of move off to the side, still in a crouch position, and scratch underneath their jowl or under their belly a little bit. If you've got a pig that you've trained to roll over by scratching on their belly, you probably don't want to do that in the show ring. More just scratch them under the jowl then. And finally, if they were stopped, I believe it was, and you want to reposition them, that's fine. You can, if you got good control over them, just tap them a little bit and get them to walk up a step or two to where you think they look better, or else you just need to spin them around and just get a different pose for them. Just because unless the judge is doing a close inspection, you really don't need to be positioned permanently in that spot. You can get up and move, and usually when the judge tells you to stop, it's at the end of a show. You're in a championship drive. The judge is making his final comments. He's asked everyone for their attention for a period of time, and instead of getting the pigs too worked up, he's asked everyone just to calm down and relax and let those pigs cool down a little bit, and while he talks for a few minutes. So during that time, yeah, your pig can probably just walk a little bit and then just get them repositioned. So, okay.
So Brian, I've been working so hard and my pig decided to defecate while I was out in the ring. I have my brush with me. How can I do this gracefully and still not be a problem in showmanship?
It's perfectly fine. Pigs are going to defecate when they're out in the show ring, and more than likely they're going to defecate several times out in the show ring. Be prepared. Watch. Be aware of what kind of stool your pig is defecating, if it is a solid stool or a more of a looser stool. If you've got a solid stool that the pig is releasing, that is not going to cause too much problem. If it's more of a liquid runny type of a stool, you're going to want to have a rag in your pocket, usually in your back pocket sticking out, so you can easily grab it, or use your brush and wipe off their rear ends when they're done. Or you can grab a handful of chips from the show ring and wipe off their butt as they're done, just to get them cleaned up. And if you get penned into a holding area and you've got a dirty area there, usually there's several people around there that have those spray bottles. You can spray off and get them cleaned back up again. But really, if it's take your brush and get them cleaned off. If it's a loose stool, you're probably going to want to use some of the wood chips from the show ring, or have a towel with you to clean them off. You don't necessarily want to use your brush, as that's if you need to brush them out at a different time, you're just going to take that loose stool and transmit it to other parts of that pig. So it's not a big deal. Just be aware of what your pig is doing, and cleaning them up the best you can while you're out in the show ring. You're really not going to get docked points while you're out there in the show ring because of that.
All right, Brian, this is Kurt. I have quite a few questions that I put down, and I'm going to try to get them grouped up for you.
Okay.
We're going to start back at the beginning. Nutrition. Can I feed medicated feed?
If you have worked with your veterinarian and have the proper paperwork, if you need medicated feed, make sure you've got the feed directive from your veterinarian to be able to do so.
Okay. Early on, you talked about feeding, trying to feed at the same time of the day. What do I do if my feed time is also when I'm scheduled to be showing my pig? How would you handle that situation?
That's why we try to look at when we're going to go to shows and what those show schedules are, to try to eliminate some of that. Most of the shows that we attend the shows start at 8 o'clock in the morning. There are a couple that get later in the day. When we hit some of the bigger national shows, some of those shows can go late into the evening. So in the morning, we like to get them fed in that 7:30 time, especially if we have a show at 8 o'clock, so that they are full and ready to go. And then just if you get later into the day, when you may be overlapping when you should be feeding, we try to feed maybe half of their ration prior to the show, just keep them content, and then feed them the rest of their ration after the show to finish filling them up for the night. Or if it's going to be several hours after your scheduled feeding, feed them the full ration, let them eat, keep them on schedule. So you just but if you're going to be in the show ring over the time that you're supposed to be feeding, I would definitely at least feed them part of your ration good a half hour to an hour before you're scheduled to go in the show ring.
Next question is regarding the whips and show pipes and canes. What do you prefer, and what do judges prefer?
You know, it all becomes a personal preference. No judge is really going to say one is a better tool than the other, as long as you have control of your pig. And you know the correct way of using it and handling it. So probably the most tricky one is if you use a show cane, and those are very few and far between that get used anymore these days. Like the picture that I had displayed in the equipment slide, that's the type of show whip that we like to use. We have some varying degrees of those with different types of ends on them, with some with multiple strands of string off of them, some with a single strand string coming off of them, some a little more flexible, some a little more rigid, just depending. And then we fit the whip to the pig that we're using with them. Some need to have a little more or a stiffer, more rigid whip to keep their attention. Some can be a little more flexible and forgiving when we're out there driving those pigs around. So in our case, we like to fit our show whips with the pigs and their attitudes and attention spans. But we pretty much prefer those types of whips that I had pictured in the equipment slide there.
Okay, this kind of falls into the same line of thinking. How do I get that? My pig is very super friendly, but I cannot get it to leave the pen. And to follow that up, and I think you might have just answered that, how do I get my pig to respond to the show, to the whip or the pipe, whatever I want to use?
Okay. So you said real friendly and
Does not want to leave the pen.
okay. Is that at a show situation, I'm guessing?
The question did not, the person did not specify that, so.
Okay. We will assume that that's the case, that they're at a show, and we got a couple different things there. Number one, they're in a new environment, not quite sure what is taking place. And that's where getting them out when you're at the show, at the fair, walking them around, gets them used to the environment, gets them used to the surroundings, helps when it comes time for showing or the show day, that they get out and get out of those pens a little bit easier. Sometimes we get what we call they don't want to leave their pen mates if they've been penned with a certain pig, and we can eliminate some of that by working with them at home separately and away from each other, so that they get used to being apart from one another. So we can do some of that work at home. But otherwise, you know, that's when one of those sort boards come in handy too. If we're at the show and they just do not want to leave that pen, you put a show or one of those sort boards up by their face. It serves as a block, a blind block for them, so that they think that they have no other way to go than to walk outside of the pen. And you're not really fighting with them either, because they're doing it on their own. So another reason why we invest and bring those sort boards with us to the fairs. And then what was the other one?
I'm trying to remember where I had it here. Oh, the pig just does not want to respond to the
Okay.
show whip.
You know, again, if you're at the fair, if you've done your work at home and worked with those pigs and worked with them on the whip, pigs have those days. They can get frustrated. They can just say, I'm not doing it today. Today is my day off. And no matter what we do, they are not going to respond, and they just need a break. But be patient, work with them, try to uh, get them moving. If you're at home and they're not moving, sometimes we need to use a little uh, more of a tap with our show sticks to get them moving. Make sure when we're using our show sticks, we're using them at the shoulder of the pig and forward on the jowl, and uh, we're not hitting them on the back of on their backs where their loin is or on their ham areas, but stay up on the shoulder and up in the jowl area to keep them moving. And sometimes we just need to tap them a little bit harder to get them moving, get their attention, and once they're back moving, we can go back to a more light tap and keep them moving that way. So, um, and pigs have tough skin, so it's hard to do too much to them.
Okay, you talked quite a bit about this during the equipment phase and in the video, but there was some chatter on the chat about brushes, using brushes in the show ring. Some states had said that they weren't allowed to use that. I think the answer to that question is you need to check your rules from that particular show and particular state if you can bring that brush in as an aid in the arena.
Right, and I always grew up with uh, that we had to have the brush in our back pocket. We could not have anything in our free hand, and that brush should not be visible. And now that our kids are up and showing, those trends have kind of changed to where it's becoming more acceptable to allow those bigger brushes in their hands when they're out in the show ring. But again, fit the brush to your hand. We can't have a 8-year-old having a big massive brush in their hand because they just cannot control that, and as well as their pigs. So you still need to fit that brush to the individual that's showing, so it's not cumbersome out there. But like Kurt said, pay attention to what your fair guidelines are, or your county rules are for what's acceptable and not acceptable.
I have two final questions for you, and one is fairly easy. At the end of the show, the judge has just made the announcement and selected his grand champion market hog or grand champion showman. I believe it's very courteous other showmen to congratulate themselves and also the judge for his time for the day.
Yep. It always shows good sportsmanship to be able to congratulate the individual that won or was reserving class, even if that individual's not you. Again, it's one fair, one judge's opinion. Keep that in mind. The next time out, it could be you that's there, and it feels good when everyone else comes up to shake your hand. So pay the respect, be a good sportsman when you're out in the show ring. Congratulate the winners, whether it's the champion in the show or class winner. Congratulate them. And whether you agree with the judge or not, he spent the time with you in the show ring, giving his comments. It's his opinion that day. Thank him for coming out and providing that service to your show and fair for that day.
Thanks, Brian. The last question's got a little bit more thought-provoking. I've got a young individual that said, I just bought a couple of pigs or had bought a couple of pigs for my project. Unfortunately, one of them did not survive. Any tips, tricks on how I should manage the one pig so that it eats and gains appropriately and can keep it happy and healthy? So I know Rick adjusted are talked about vaccinations with talk with your veterinarian. But any thoughts there about? Unfortunately, I just got one pig left, and I cannot find any more.
Okay. And yeah, that's a bummer that that one of the pigs didn't make it, but and it's also hard when pigs are kind of companion animals. They kind of thrive off one another. But if this just occurred, you just got the pigs home and they're still rather young. I that individual that's still around and growing, I think that individual is going to do just fine. If you get later on into the year where they've been companions for a good period of time, it may set that individual back just a little bit longer because, again, they're companion animals. They thrive off each other. But you may need to spend just a little more time with that individual, brushing on him and those types of things. Really watch how they're eating and uh, that he doesn't go off feed necessarily. If he starts to go off feed, then you may want to consult with your local veterinarian to see if there's something that you could do to boost an appetite to get him eating again, because we really don't want him to go off feed. So if we can keep him eating, he's going to do just fine and thrive and do just as he should. Just keep in mind you may need to spend a little extra time with him and companionship with him. So, but good luck with that project for that individual.
All right, is that the end of our questions?
I see one more here, and just must come in here towards the end of. The question says, when you talked about shaving, I think they meant clipping your pig. You said you can use different blades to enhance some of their features. Can you explain that a little more?
You know, there's different areas that you can enhance to give some different definition of how that pig is going to look based on how you clip that pig. So down the top line, you can go a little bit closer down that top line where the groove of that top line is to maybe give the impression that he's got a little more muscle shape and expression down that top. Or you can give him a little more thickness just based on leaving a little bit longer hair length across that top to give him some the appearance to be a little thicker. You're really getting into some more advanced type of showing and clipping that you really need to work with someone if to understand how to go in and accentuate those areas and yet blend it in so it all looks natural. And that's really hard to do over a Zoom type of a program. It becomes more of a one-on-one type of a program where you've got an actual animal to work on and demonstrate on, and got an individual that knows what they're doing and can demonstrate that type of clipping to those individuals. But really, the hair on a pig, there's not a whole lot to it, and it's going to be real hard to if even the good individuals that can clip, and it's really hard to fool the judges, especially if they know what they're doing on those different clip jobs. So right now, especially if you're new to this and don't have a whole lot of experience, keep it simple, keep it, put the guard on and clip the body the way with the guard on, and go from there. Your pig's going to look really good out in that show ring.
such great questions, and Brian has done such an amazing job at really detailed in his answers. So thank you, Brian, so much for your time and energy today, and certainly sharing your wisdom on everything swine.
Well, I appreciate everyone joining us tonight and having a good night.
Heck yeah. I hope that everybody took away something. Again, this will be recorded. I've shared a couple times with that email where that's at. So definitely look at our page. And if you missed some of the other ones, I'll put that in the chat box right now, just in case you missed it. And with that, I hope you guys all have a fantastic night. Thank you, Paige, too, for answering some of those questions. We really appreciate your wisdom you've been sharing, too, as a showman who's been showing for quite some time. So thank you, darling.